Tonight on Joynews, Prime Police CID says it is still investigating shooting incident during just-ended elections, including the killing of a civilian at the Ablekuma Central Collation Center, allegedly by a soldier.
Investigation is ongoing to get the security officer who actually committed the offense to face the law.
Despite the update by the police, Parliament has still summoned the IGP to appear to provide answers to the same issues amidst calls for his resignation.
I have written to the IGP to appear before our committee and give us status information on what happened during the exercise and post the exercise.
Members of Parliament are to undergo another screening exercise for COVID-19. In a related development, the COVID-19 vaccines could be available to countries in Africa next year, but the WHO is concerned the continent may not be prepared to inoculate its citizens. In business,
avoiding a tomato glut this Christmas, traders and transporters have agreed on a special shift system.
Also in the bulletin, residents of Kumasi can't wait to see an end to the year 2020, but say it is a year they will never forget.
2020 is a very sad for us. This year, we will never forget it.
My name is Joshua, and Joynews Prime is coming to you live from our Founder for Studios at Kokomlimli here in Accra, or your digital terrestrial TV, because we're free to air, and also on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is a home of independent, fearless, credible, and impactful journalism. Do stay tuned in. The Criminal Investigations Department says it is still conducting investigations into the shooting to death of two persons at the Tichimang South Collation Center. At a news conference on violence during election 2020, Director General of the CID, COP Isaac Kenyeboah, said 8 persons were injured after some NDC supporters started attacking people who had gathered for the collation.
8 male adults were injured in the process. Police called the National Ambulance Team, which was standing by the center, and the victims were rushed to Holy Family Hospital for treatment. However, Abdallah Ayarek and Tajuddin Muhammad were pronounced dead on arrival. But our investigation so far revealed that whilst the electoral officials were collating the results at about 1540 hours, the results were projected as follows: 49,582 for the MPP parliamentary candidate, 49,205 for the MDC parliamentary candidate. Supporters of the NDC who had gathered outside the hall became angry and started attacking the center with stones and other offensive weapons. They broke the cordoned zone and forced their way into the collation center. And that was when the shot was fired from the crowd, and the police personnel detailed to safeguard the center also gave warning shots. And then after the rioters had left the place, 8 male adults were injured. I must say that the police are still investigating to find out who actually committed the offense.
COP Isaac Kenyeboah also revealed a soldier involved in the shooting to death of a man in his 30s, Ibrahim Abbas, who died on Wednesday after sustaining gunshot wounds in the Ablekuma Central constituency, is yet to be identified and arrested.
The earlier shooting, in which a military officer was also involved but has not yet been identified, the victim, Abbas Ibrahim, who was on admission at Kolebu Teaching Hospital, unfortunately died on the 16th of December 2020. Postmortem examination had been performed and the body released to the family. Investigation is ongoing to get the security officer who actually committed the offense to face the law.
The CID Director General also says investigations are underway to find and arrest some persons involved in the shooting to death of a 12-year-old girl at Savalogu.
A warrant of arrest for the parliamentary candidate of Savalogu, in whose office the AK-47 rifle was found, had been obtained, and investigation is going on to establish the perpetrators of the crime. On the 9th of December, at about 16 hours, the Northern Regional Police Command, in conjunction with the military, arrested suspect Duku Na Muhammad Ahmed. He is the chief of Duku in Savalogu, with one AK-47 rifle with 2 magazines loaded with 40 rounds of ammunition, 21 extra AK-47 ammunition, 1 G3 ammunition in his residence at Savalogu. Police also proceeded to the office of the parliamentary candidate of the NDC, which remains part of the Dukuna's house, and retrieved another AK-47 assault rifle with 2 magazines loaded with 60 rounds of ammunition. Search and arrest followed police investigations into the shooting incident at the office of the NDC parliamentary candidate that claimed the life of the young girl. Police investigations continued, and the intelligence gathered was to the effect that the shooting emanated from the PC office, and an AK-47 rifle was used. During the search, 1 AK-47 with 2 magazines loaded with 40 rounds of ammunition, 1 G3 ammunition, and a live cartridge were retrieved from the chief's palace.
Well, despite the update on investigations provided by the police CID, Parliament's Defence and Interior Committee has summoned IGP James Opon-Bueno over the recent killings during and after the December 7 elections. Chairman of the committee, Seth Champong, says the meeting next week will demand details on how the security agencies have operated in the last few weeks. NDC MP for Nortong, Samuel Okujoto-Ablakwa, made the request on the floor of the House on Friday.
There are major security matters following from the elections. People have been killed. The IGP appeared before us before the elections and took responsibility that he is in charge of the election security task force. Can the task force appear before us to answer questions on matters to do with security, lives that have been lost, and all the security challenges we have faced with the election. It's a very important matter, either before Tuesday or when we reconvene on the 4th. I think we should create some window for the IGP and members of the task force to appear before this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman of the committee, Seth Champong, described as premature and misplaced demands by the minority for the IGP to resign.
I think the security service personnel were in defense of the attacks which were being waged against them. And the first and immediate response by any person is to defend themselves. Unfortunately, out of that defense, lives fell. And let us not go away from the fact that an action resulted in such a reaction.
But shouldn't the level of reaction be equal or proportionate to the provocation? Because if you're firing bullets on unarmed civilians, obviously this is something that you know their own standard operation shouldn't encourage them to do.
Joseph, ideally, I would not be saying this. Unfortunately, yesterday, civilians, so-called, on the streets of the capital, on a normal civic responsibility of protest, which should not warrant pelting of stones, of weaponry. We witnessed it on our streets. Your cameras captured them. We must, as a nation, live up to our responsibility. We have all endorsed this dispensation of democracy. And democracy is the rule of law. If you don't understand anything, don't take the law into your hands. If you do, there we have these excesses. I will not falter the security service personnel, because if they had not stood up, the people, if the attackers had overpowered them, they would have overpowered the state. And they stand instead of the state. The state cannot suffer anybody's mistake. The state must stand. The sanctity of the state I will defend. I would not tell anybody to go after the state. Anytime, I always say this, anytime you see a personnel in full regalia, that is the state of the Republic of Ghana. If you dare attempt to hit that character and they hit at you, you are at fault. So stop, don't go there. They are there as checks over us, so that you and I, as we as we argue, we do not battle. So don't go battle them. That is wrong. On that note, I think it is not properly placed. The call by my colleague James that the IGP should resign is not well placed. I have delved deeper.
You think it's a misplaced call?
I think it's a misplaced call. It's a premature call. This is my expression and this is my opinion. And I think we just need to, I don't falter him by stating his case, because that is his opinion. But my opinion, I think it's premature, it's misplaced, because I have written to the IGP to appear before our committee and give us status information on what happened during the exercise and post the exercise.
The Minister for Parliamentary Affairs is urging MPs to step up personal security around themselves. Chairman Samusu says this is important to ensure nothing untoward happens to any of the retained MPs between now and January 7, when they will be sworn into the 8th Parliament. Speaking on the floor of the House, he urged those with peculiar security challenges to contact the security outfit in the House.
Mr. Speaker, I think it's important to inform members that going forward, as between now and the swearing in, it's important for all of us, given the rumors and whispers that keep inundating our space. I don't believe in rumors. However, it's important for the security of members that we make the necessary arrangements via the security outfit in the House, so that we protect ourselves. It's important that we undertake this. You never know what somebody may be thinking. These days, people are becoming very devilish. My own backyard, somebody jubilating, and his own very uncle going to stab him because he was wearing a t-shirt of Chairman Samusu. I think it's unconscionable. You never would imagine that his own mother's brother will go and stab him, and he stabbed him in the neck. It's unconscionable where we are degenerating to as a country. So, Speaker, if it happens to a member, I don't know what state this nation will be thrown into. So it's important for us to resort to measures to protect ourselves. And we are in touch with the security outfit here. If anybody has any peculiar problem, let him or her, through leadership, or perhaps even touching base with our own security outfit here to secure protective measures for himself or herself. We need to do that. Nothing untoward should happen to anybody between now and in particular the January 7th, when the swearing in of members will happen. Speaker, thank you.
Members of Parliament are to undergo another round of COVID-19 tests. The fresh test, according to the leadership, has become necessary due to the extensive exposure during the electioneering period. A number of MPs and staff tested positive in a similar screening exercise in May this year. Majority Leader Vanessa Bryant, who announced the plan, says the move is to ensure MPs enter 2021 with a clean bill of health.
The Speaker, I think it's also important, given the circumstances of these times, to inform members that given what we've gone through as members of this House, with respect to the rather very intense electioneering campaigns and the conduct of elections, it's become imperative for us all to resubmit ourselves to the necessary COVID-19 tests. Arrangements are being made in that direction, and we entreat every member to submit himself or herself so as to enable us to enter the new year with a clean bill of health. This week I thank honorable members.
In a related development, the WHO says it is concerned about the preparedness of many African countries to conduct a successful rollout of COVID-19 inoculation when a vaccine is made available for the continent next year. It explains lack of logistics and supply chain systems in many African countries could delay the distribution to some countries, as the average preparedness for the continent is disappointingly at 36% as against the 80% required. Dr. Richard Mihigo is WHO's Program Area Manager, Immunization and Vaccine Development, and has been addressing a news conference. The WHO plans to roll out its biggest immunization campaign yet, distributing more than 2 billion vaccines to African countries by the end of 2021. In Ghana, cases continue to rise. The country's case count has now passed 53,000, with active cases now at 956 and 331 deaths. Health Minister Kweku Agyeman-Menu, who was at the launch of the 72nd New Year School, touted government's handling of the pandemic ahead of the discussions by experts in academia.
My excitement comes from the fact that this year's theme is very timely because of the worldwide experience of the COVID-19 pandemic. The annual New Year School and Conference has always identified topical issues of national and international interest, and the selection of the theme Building Ghana in the Face of Global Health Crisis is no exception. I congratulate you for aptly selecting such a theme for the 2020 event. I am very grateful to the individuals and institutions who responded to the government's appeal for donations into the COVID-19 National Trust Fund. I want to believe that as members of the New Year School with varied expertise, we all have an obligation to every Ghanaian and to their families, not only to get this disease under control, but also to build a better future for ourselves and our families. Although we have done well in managing the pandemic, I strongly believe there is still more to do to win the fight against this pandemic. It is essential to remember that we are in this together, and we can only get out of this together.
Now, as the UK embarks on the inoculation of its people against the COVID-19 pandemic, Dorothy Asante, a healthcare assistant in the UK, has been lucky to have had the first jab of the recently approved vaccine. She described it as a simple process that is not frightening and urged all Britons to avail themselves to be vaccinated whenever the opportunity presents itself. Dr. Asante spoke earlier in an interview with Bernice Abubedu Lansa on Newsdesk.
At first, it was scary, but I think one of my friends who was put to the testing earlier suggested to me that if that person has survived, then we can also survive. So she encouraged me. She went to have it first last week, and then yesterday I had it. And it's okay. It's just like a normal flu vaccine, which you don't have any pain. From yesterday, I haven't had any pain. I just have paracetamol paracetamol, and then I'm fine and back to work. Before I had my vaccine yesterday, I took paracetamol a night before, and then yesterday before I went to have the vaccine, I took another paracetamol, and I'm fine. I'm very, very fine. I haven't had any reaction at all. Apparently, we are going to have 2 doses. Okay. So I just took one, and I think after 8 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks, I'll go back and have another dose, which is the final dose to clear you from the COVID.
Well, back here in Ghana, the Medical Association is on a public education drive to get people to understand the threat of a second wave. The medical professionals who are at the center of this pandemic want strict adherence to the COVID-19 protocols.
Did you know that the number of COVID-19 cases in Ghana is going up gradually? This is largely because of the relaxation in the COVID-19 preventive protocols. The Ghana Medical Association is calling on all Ghanaians to observe the necessary preventive measures. Let's wear our face masks when we have to do that. Let's observe the necessary social and physical distances. And above all, let's observe the necessary hand hygiene. Be responsible and keep safe. Thank you.
320 deaths so far due to COVID-19. 48,055 confirmed cases at present. Over 500 active cases confirmed. Many more have not reported for diagnosis, and they live among us, in our homes, our churches, our restaurants, our offices. Would you help prevent this second wave, as many countries in Europe are experiencing second waves? Let's take to the COVID-19 prevention protocols. Observe strict hand hygiene, wear your face mask, observe social distancing.
Keep your distance. Physical distance is still a must if we must avoid a second wave of COVID-19. Think twice before you join a crowd. Is there enough space for adequate social distancing? Before you speak to anyone, take 3 steps back. They can still hear you. Let's all come together to avoid a second wave of COVID-19.
But I've been infected already. Can I get infected again? If I get infected, would I infect others? Wow, there's a lot we are learning about reinfections. But yes, data suggests that reinfections are possible. Therefore, to err on the side of caution, let's continue to wear our mask, especially in public places. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, avoid crowded areas, and ensure social or physical distancing. Let's help prevent a second wave.
We have seen the impact of COVID-19 on various sectors of our lives. The hard decisions on restriction of movements. It is difficult to predict the outcome of a second wave. Let's all come together, wear our face masks, observe the protocols, hand hygiene, and social distancing. Let's prevent a second wave.
Well, 2020 has been a challenging year, a year with unique challenges arising from the global COVID-19 pandemic. For residents of Kumasi, it will be a year never to be forgotten. Joynews' Mahmoud Mohamed reports many are anxious to see the end of 2020.
As for 2020, it's a very sad for us. This year, we will never forget it.
A lot of people have died, and that really drove things down in this country.
When we said 2020,
we don't want to go through 2020 again because I have suffered.
A lot have passed under the bridge this year. The death of relatives and friends to the coronavirus have been devastating to families and communities. Jobs have been lost and opportunities missed. A sad reminder of 2020 described by many as unprecedented, but it has also been a year of innovations for survival, from online learning to working remotely. So how would you describe the year?
2019 they must come out. If they were 2020, we be like I say, 2020 no.
Everyone thought 2020 was going to be a great year because of how 2019 ended. But in God's wisdom, it didn't go as we wanted. Children couldn't go to school, and it has been difficult.
If God has seen us through 2020, we have to give thanks to Him because COVID-19 outbreak has killed many people, but we are still alive. Indeed, God has been good to us.
For some, job losses and slowed down businesses are top of concerns.
COVID-19 has made the whole world, even the Ghana, has become so terrible for us. Our business, our money, everything have been lost. We have lost everything for this year 2020 in the COVID-19 pandemic. We have suffered for a lot.
The hope of many is to enter the new year with renewed hope of business revival. But if 2021 begins where 2020 ended, it might not be a good start for many.
We hope and pray that we never come across something like lockdown. God should take it far away from us. We don't want to see that kind of thing in our lives again.
Some believe relying on God now is the greatest wisdom going into the new year. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Right, so there's been talk of the vaccine becoming available to a COVID-19 vaccine becoming available to us here in Africa next year, and the fact that the continent itself is not that prepared for it. But the question, or the other question is, are Africans themselves ready or willing to take a vaccine? Should it become available sometime next year? That's a question we're asking you on our Facebook page. You may want to go there to give us your responses. We've had some responses coming in already. We have, what, about 28 comments. And, well, Papa Payne says not willing, but I will instantly take it. But unfortunately, vaccination will be difficult in Ghana due to conspiracy theories. It's true. And Sedinam says, well, what did I get COVID-19 before taking its vaccine? How can you give a medicine to someone who's not sick? Okay, so for your information, the vaccine is not medication for someone who's sick. It's to prevent you from getting that sickness. So anyway, we would expect you can go there, drop your comments. I'll be reading some of your comments. We're taking a break here on Joynews Prime at the moment. Up ahead, avoiding a tomato glut. Traders and transporters agree on a shift system which begins next year.
It has caused a significant...
Do stay tuned in.
Hello, good evening. It's time for business. I'm Charles Aitib. The Ghana National Tomato Traders and Transporters Association has declared its readiness to begin the implementation of a shift system for trading the vegetable in order to avoid a glut and post-harvest losses. According to the association, it needs the government's support to ensure that all market traders abide by the new trading system, which is set to begin next year. There's more in this report.
has caused a significant loss to farmers and other stakeholders in the value chain. The situation has caused the National Tomato Traders and Transporters Association to collaborate with government in formulating a shift system for trading. After addressing a national engagement with the Ministry of Trade and Industry on the effects of the unregulated market, Chairman Eric Osetufo reiterated the call that the association is ready to begin the shift system.
And we know in business we say supply and demand. If the supply exceed the demand, there will be an excess. And we know we are trading with a highly perishable commodity like tomato. And as I'm speaking now, we don't have any storage facility for our tomato. And as such, the association sat down together with Ministry of Trade so that we will implement a schedule system. If 100 people are within one market, we should share them in such a way that for the week, everyone will go and then bring the tomato into his or her market. So this means we will move down to the border posts. All the borders that we've been using to cross to Burkina Faso to buy the tomato. We need to alert the border officials. After doing that, we will implement the system.
Technical advisor on domestic trade at the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Intim Donko, believes the new move, when implemented, will help local farmers benefit from their produce.
They can regulate the flow of tomato into the markets and thereby avoid gluts, spoilages, and also loss of capital. And this is what we are supporting them to implement, together with ministries, departments, and agencies, or relevant local authorities, so that we will make the schedule work, and then we will have peace in the markets.
The association will be engaging other stakeholders on the new policy to have a mutual understanding.
Well, the Yuletide every year comes with a lot of excitement as people make plans to stock up their fridges and storehouses with foodstuff. But when the prices of foodstuffs are rising, many get worried. It's exactly a week to Christmas and many food items from corn to eggs are becoming a little more expensive. Judith Awatri-Tando has more in this report.
So we've been speaking to some local traders at the Malata Market Center. And according to them, there has been an increment in the prices of their goods. And so we'll be speaking to some of these market women to understand what they think is the cause of this increment, as well as how badly it has affected their businesses.
Traders at the Malata Market say that prices of goods have increased as a result of duties, climate changes, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Some have also attributed the hike to the Christmas season, saying such hikes are normal during these times. According to them, this has affected their businesses as customers are unwilling to buy their goods.
Truly, prices have increased. Maize used to be sold at 250 Ghana cedis a bag. But now, it's being sold at 300 Ghana cedis. For the foreign goods, I will attribute the price hike to export duties. The price hike for farm goods, however, can be attributed to the climate change.
The prices have really increased. The fishes we sell here are all from Ivory Coast, and due to that, the export duties are very high. It has really affected my business.
Affecting business, prices are quite high. Now, normal because
the prices have increased, but it is normal due to the festive season. These are going for 10 and 11 cedis, and the small ones are being sold at 8 cedis. But during this season, we can get this for 8 cedis.
Every time the season, I get September, they turn it 10, which means to say 8 cedis.
At first, it used to be sold at 60, with the highest being 19 cedis. But now it's going for 22, 23, or 26 cedis.
Contrary to the popular views, a local plantain seller at the market says her prices have rather gone low. She explains that the prices of plantain are usually low during the Christmas season. For her, business is booming.
Oh,
by God's grace, the price of plantains have not increased. This was also the case last year. For about 6 years, the cost of plantain was high until the past 4 years. Business for me is going well.
Judith Awatritando's report for Joynews.
And that's it for business. We're back after 8. Sports is up next. Just stay.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joynews Prime. It's now time to bring you sports. My name is Hans Mengsando, and Asante Kotoko fired their head coach Maxwell Kunedu following their first defeat of the season at the hands of Accra Great Olympics on Thursday. The Porcupine Warriors failed to impress as they lost 1-0 in the Ghana Premier League outstanding fixture in Accra.
The club took a decision to replace the former Black Stars B head coach after the Porcupine Warriors suffered a 1-0 defeat in the Ghana Premier League. In the top flight so far, the Kumasi-based club have won only 1 of 4 matches played, drawing 2 and losing 1. The Olympics' disappointment being their first defeat of the season. The club said in a statement, and I quote, management of Asante Kotoko Sporting Club wishes to inform the general public that it has decided to part ways with coach Maxwell Kunedu as its head coach with immediate effect. The statement said on Tuesday. It added that assistant coach Johnson Smith has been appointed to lead the team in the interim. Kotoko opened their new football season campaign with a 1-1 home draw with 11 Wonders before holding Brekum Chelsea to a 1-1 stalemate on match day 2. Last week, the Porcupine Warriors registered their first win of the season in a 1-0 victory over Legon Cities. Thursday's loss to Olympics owing to Michael Yebua's 54th minute goal for the away side proved to be the coach's last straw. Maxwell said in a post-match press conference that the game was a difficult match.
Yeah, it was a difficult match, as we all witnessed. In the first half, we couldn't get to our rhythm. But when we went inside and came back, and when we started doing the basic things in the game, we got to our game together. And for me, that is what we should have been doing in the first half. So we've taken lessons from this. And going forward, we have to reassure our supporters that we will bounce back as soon as possible.
Many have attributed the club's poor performance so far in the Premier League to the numerous signings management made prior to the start of the season. Maxwell said the players are gradually settling in.
I think some are still, struggling to settle in very well, and some, do confide in us that now they know what it takes to play for Kotoko. But like I said, they will only get better. Once they are in and they understand the demands from our followers, they have to, yes, lift up their games.
Despite his assurance that the team will pick up as the season progresses, management took the decision to terminate his contract. Kotoko appointed Kunedu as head coach in December 2019 following the dismissal of Norwegian trainer Jethro Zakariasen. It was the Ghanaian's second stint in charge of the Porcupine Warriors, having led the side to the Premier League title in the 2011 and 12 season. He has previously worked as an assistant coach of Ghana's national team as well as head coach of the home-based national team, whom he guided to the final of the 2019 Wafu Cup of Nations in Senegal. Interim coach Johnson Smith will lead the team into Sunday's Premier League away encounter with Dreams FC and next week CAF Champions League first round showdown with Al Hilal of Sudan.
A former goalkeeper of Accra Hearts of Folk wants the club's shotstopper Richard Atta to work hard on dealing with long-range shot. Atta has conceded twice from long drives this season and has been heavily criticized by the fans of the club. Abukari Damba is happy with Atta's overall performance but has charged him to improve.
So far, I must be honest with you, he's been fantastic. He's been great. But he needs to work on certain aspects of him. You know, modern goalkeeping goes beyond just being a shot stopper. Stopping the ball from getting into your goal is your primary objective, but make the goal scoring opportunities of your team as big as possible. You should be able to keep the ball in the team. You hold the ball, develop or build up from the back, passing the ball to the opponent, to your teammates. And when you have the ball in your hand, distributing the ball up front to your striking teammates should be as accurate as possible. I've watched him a couple of times, and this is not to take anything away from him or to kill his spirit. I think he has to work more on keeping the ball in the team, the accuracy of his passing, in terms of doing the long ball and also in terms of building from the back or building through the midfield. He's got to do a lot more work on keeping the ball and being, very good in distributing the ball with the feet. But by and large, I think he has been phenomenal. He has been fantastic in terms of shot stopping. So I want him to go a step ahead to make himself a complete goalkeeper by helping his team in terms of, attacking and making the goal scoring chances very big. But apart from that, I must say he's a fantastic individual.
All right, that's it for now. We'll bring you more later in the bulletin.
All right, it's time for Showbiz, and Becky Vex has joined me, and I was just asking her if the same question I posed to everybody else on Facebook: will you be willing to take a COVID-19 vaccine when it becomes available?
What is good for you is good for me. So you take it, I'll take it. I'll follow your lead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll go for it.
You will?
Yeah, I will go for it.
Why are people scared of,
Yeah, all these conspiracy theories. People think that some people in the world are out to harm Africans or get rid of Africans. So they use these vaccines to just get rid of us, of the continent. But we've been taking polio vaccines and all the rest.
But can they do that? Why do they want to even kill us? We won't take the vaccine.
Oh. I thought he had agreed to go along.
I mean, if it's true that, if all the...
It's a that's why it's called a conspiracy theory.
I'm an African, girl. I won't take it.
You won't take it?
But if you're taking it and you're advising me to, because, if we're dying, we'll die together.
What's happening, Showbiz?
Well, this evening, just ask me again where I was.
Okay, where were you?
So...
Or where have you been?
Yeah, I've been around airport, so much traffic, just to, have this very exclusive interview with Mr. P. You know Mr. P?
No.
Oh, Mr. P. P Square P.
Okay.
That story is, done and over with. It's been 4 years. He's moved on. His brother has moved on. So he's in Ghana, and he's been talking to me about his new song. It came out just a week ago, called Follow the Lead. He's been explaining to me, and he's actually in Ghana because of something. He's launching something tomorrow at the Labadi Beach Hotel. Right. And so we've just been having a conversation with Mr. P.
You can dance, actually. You always stay on your seat and...
Mr. P can dance. So,
yeah.
And I interviewed him.
All right, but I'm interested in finding out what's happening to the brother.
Yeah, I'm sure he's back in Nigeria, and hopefully, but when he comes down to Ghana, we'll also have him to talk to.
Okay.
Why you want something?
No. Just
maybe
just
we can both interview his brother.
Okay.
Then I interview just him.
That's fine.
Yeah. So Kwesiata, he's been nominated for MTV Africa Music Awards, the hip hop category, and he is hoping that he will bring this particular award home because, it's a tough competition. Do you know which
song it is, or it's just
so just the hip hop, just him as a hip hop artist.
Right.
So he's hoping that he will bring this one home. The likes of Sarkodie, paved the way, and he is very much, hopeful. It's just a hopeful bit. He spoke on Daybreak Hits this morning. So, Vanessa Bryant accuses mother of attempting to extort money from her because the mother is suing Vanessa to give her money
Okay,
still don't understand.
A lot of things, a lot of weird things happening in America, actually.
There's a quote here. So that's from Vanessa. She was a grandmother who was supported by me and her son-in-law at my request. Bryant's claim. She now wants to back-charge me $96 per hour for supposedly working 12 hours a day for 18 years for watching her grandchildren. In reality, she only occasionally babysat for older girls when they were toddlers. As for 10 years ago, our kids were full-time students and athletes. And I didn't have another child until 2016. Her claims are obviously false, but I tried repeatedly to work things out with my mother.
Okay, so let me break it down.
Yeah.
Your mom, let's say you have kids now, and your mom takes care of the kids, or you go to your mom and say, okay, I'm going to work, take care of my kids.
Twins.
For me. Then maybe 10 years from now, you become a billionaire.
Yeah.
You get married to Tyler Perry.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then your mom comes back and says, okay, I want you to pay me for taking care of your kids.
Yeah.
For what, 10 years, for that 10 years. That's what's happening.
Does that?
It happens in America.
Really?
Yeah, it happens in America.
How?
we might think it's, we do these things all the time. Our parents take care of our kids all the time, but yeah, over there.
We take it for granted. So for the Ghanaian mothers, I think we definitely do take it for granted, because if a mother can sue a daughter, that's a great deal. But do you feel the Christmas? Are you feeling it?
No.
Me too, I'm not feeling it. But John Legend had, something put together, an album.
To make people feel.
Americans, they take Christmas first now.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't look like, because me, financially, I can't feel the Christmas. Like, I can't feel the Christmas in the air.
It's like $1 trillion business, so...
So, he had a whole album to that effect, and, well, if you have that, we can play that.
Some assembly members in the Sokorie-Mampo Municipal Assembly in the Ashanti region are alleged to have been assaulted by thugs wearing NPP colors. The men, numbering about 15, stormed an assembly meeting to beat up some of the assembly members who had demanded accountability in the distribution of street lights brought in by the Ministry of Energy. Nana Ajima followed the matter and has filed this report.
One of the assault victims, Mubarak Adams, who is the assembly member for Abuabu No. 1, has a swollen lip and a plaster covers parts of his forehead. He says the two people who came to him made it clear that he was a target.
Before he slapped me, he told me that they have even planned to attack me for a very long time. But yesterday was the day that they thought that this is the day that they will get me. So they decided that they will not let me go scot-free.
Mubarak believes he was targeted due to his call for accountability in the distribution of items. It took police intervention to stop the persons who invaded the meeting from causing further harm to victims. According to the victims, the thugs in the NPP shirts came in the meeting at the time objections were raised about street light distribution. Assembly member for Sepetimpom electoral area, Kwame Nkrumah Arthur, explains.
And that the lights were given to him by the MPP party, and for that matter, the distribution, according to me, is those that he would to give the lights to. So we were taken aback and said that, how would that happen? Because we all need security, and street light is one of those things that helps improve security in our various electoral areas. So we're back since the MC denied us of these street lights. So it was during the yesterday meeting that in the minute there was this promise as captured in the minutes by the MC that the Ministry of Energy had promised to or has responded to the Assembly's call for a number of street lights. So in due course the lights will be given. So it was at this point that some of us got up and raised the issue of to find as whether the lights that were distributed about a month ago was from the Ministry of Energy or not. Then before we could say jack, these thugs burst into the hall.
So these people were not part of the meeting?
They weren't part of the meeting, but they were loitering at the entrance of the assembly hall. As at the time I was entering, I saw them, about 15 or 20 of them, clad in MPP t-shirt and Honorable Ali Dusedu's t-shirt.
The assemblyman on the day wore a sticker with the inscription 21,000 votes, Lawu, ostensibly to mock Municipal Chief Executive Ali Dusedu, who contested and lost the Asawasi parliamentary election.
I'm good friend. This thing, you know, we even if, yes, I admit I put on that placard, but you know, your rights must end at the tip of my nose. Even if you think what I've just put on is offensive, you have no right whatsoever to touch me.
Police have since arrested some suspects as investigation continues. For Joynews, Nana Ojima reporting.
The Opportunities for Youth Employment program has been launched in the Ashanti region to enhance youth employment and curb irregular migration in Ghana. 5,000 young people are expected to be trained under the program to enhance their employability and entrepreneurial capabilities. 6 districts in the Ashanti region identified as hotspots for irregular migration would benefit from the scheme. Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin reports.
SNV Netherlands Development Organization is implementing a 4-year project that boosting green employment and enterprise opportunities in Ghana. This is in partnership with the United Nations Capital Development Fund and the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development. The goal is to improve the employability of beneficiaries, particularly women and returning migrants, by matching them with market opportunities. Gifty Kujo is the Skills Development Advisor at SNV Ghana.
4 years. We've done 1 year already, so we are left with 3 more years to go. It's been implemented in just 2 regions in Ghana, here in Ashanti region and then the Western region. And even within the regions, we have selected districts that we are implementing the project in. So like I said, it's a joint action implemented by us, SNV, and the United Nations Capital Development Fund. So in Ashanti here, we are looking at 6 districts. We have Drobonso, which is Setre Afram Plains. We are also looking at Adanse South, New Edubiase. We are also working in Kumewu, Setre Kumewu districts. We are in Offenso, North and South. We are also here in Ejra.
SNV Ghana wants to create and strengthen a local ecosystem that supports youth development. Out of the 5,000 people to be trained, SNV Ghana hopes to support 3,500 in setting up their businesses.
Out of the 5,000, we hope that 3,500 will be able to access some form of employment for themselves, or we will be able to support them to set up businesses for themselves.
Some beneficiaries spoke about how the initiative would transform their business ideas and improve their lives.
I can say my confidence have been built, and then I have learned a whole lot of things. I've had a lot of business ideas whilst doing my internship that I'm hoping to explore after this internship. And so it's not just about the job I'm looking at, but creating a job for myself in the green sector. So I would encourage everybody to take advantage of it. It is an opportunity that you will not regret when you take advantage of. Yeah.
You know, after school I wanted to start my own business. I have the technical skills, but it was left with how to go about putting those skills into practice and making sure I benefit from it. So I was surfing Facebook one day and I saw this caption, "Oi." So I clicked apply and joined, and I went for the training. So during the training, it was in 2 sessions. They asked if you want to join the entrepreneurial class or employability, so I chose entrepreneurship. So during the entrepreneurship training, I had the opportunity to learn a lot of things that were not given to us in school, and putting those things into practice and going by them is helping me gradually build up my business.
coordinator of the National Youth Authority at Ejura, Mahmoud Lamino, expects the training to help transform the youth.
Those we presented are basically secondary school leavers. They should discover more on their potentials. They will know where they should fit very well in society. Generally, for them to know the purpose of life after secondary school.
The Opportunities for Youth Employment Program focuses on 3 special sectors: agriculture, renewable energy, water and sanitation. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
Parliament has passed into law the first ever bill proposed by MPs themselves. The Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2020 introduces stiffer punishment for road traffic offenders whose actions lead to the death of an unborn child. This is the first time in history a private member's bill proposed by MPs has been approved by Parliament. All other laws approved by Parliament have come from the President through his ministers. Kumbungu MP Ras Mubarak, Chairman of Parliament's Constitution and Legal Affairs Committee, Ben Abdallah, Majority Leader Osechi Mensah Bonsu, and Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu are the joint proponents of the bill. The Road Traffic Act 2004 specifies sanctions against drivers and cyclists whose actions and inactions result in injury or death to an unborn child in the womb.
Apart from the death or injury caused to the pregnant mother, if a driver or cyclist, motorist, rides or drives recklessly and the unborn child or fetus dies, the person gets punished when found guilty to serve a term of imprisonment of not less than 3 years and not more than 7 years.
And this is aside whatever sanctions will apply.
And this is aside whatever sanctions would apply, aside injury caused to the mother.
There was the discussion around probably introducing a fine apart from the custodial sentence. Did the House agree on anything on that?
Yes, that's because there may be injury and it may not necessarily result in the death of the fetus or unborn child, but it may result in injury. And if it does result in injury, in the spirit of fairness of the law, one would expect that some fine would be imposed based on the magnitude of the injury. I mean, there are instances where pregnant women would be involved in accidents and it will be discovered later that the child, got some form of injury or the other without compensation, without punishment imposed on the driver or the rider who may have caused that accident.
This is the first ever private members bill from what we are told. How important is this, and what more does it open as far as the nation's legislative activities are concerned?
That is landmark. Never in the history of the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, especially under the 1992 Constitution, have we seen private members' bills passed. So this is the first. The opportunity it brings is that it opens door for members of Parliament to plug loopholes in existing legislations, and to also introduce new legislation. And for me, that is a lot of powers given to legislators.
Well, congratulations to those private members. Now, let's get onto our Facebook page and to the question I asked earlier: will you be willing to take a COVID-19 vaccine when it becomes available in Ghana? So let's read some of the comments you have posted. 536 comments. So Mensah Benedict says, Africans are very good in criticizing and judging things, but will never provide any solution. I wish this vaccine would be available in Ghana. I will be the first person to inject. And he has 27 reactions. There's 16 replies there. Now, Raphael says, it's not a matter of willing, it is a matter of understanding what it is and the benefits available to me. That is all. I must be adequately convinced scientifically of what it is that I must inoculate into my body. Thank you very much, Raphael. And James Dramna says, well, I am not too sure I would. I think I would stay with my safety precautions. After all, they have the same net effect in real terms. Well, not quite so, because you probably get to a time when you'll be asked to take a vaccine before you can travel or go anywhere. Okay, so Leo says, not certain on that. African leaders are really a failed crop. Someone has to invent, then later push to us. All they know is to win political power instead of investing in technologies and facilities that will equip our experts to sail on matters like this. Anyways, all ministers, parliamentarians, and the government fraternity would have to take the shot first, since our MPs are now calling for a mandatory test for COVID-19 simply because they were exposed, forgetting that without their political activities, people were actively complying with the safety protocols spelled out. All right, Papa Peyin says, not willing, but I will instantly take it. But unfortunately, vaccination will be difficult in Ghana due to conspiracy theories. Well, yeah, I read that earlier. And Prophetic Clark says, when certain people die, then fraudulent GH doctors say it's COVID-19 which killed them. Didn't people die at the time? There was no so-called COVID-19 in Ghana. We don't need any evil and sickening COVID-19 vaccine in Ghana. Sick and tired of lies. There is no COVID-19 in Ghana. Well, on that note, well, we're ending the comments. For those of you who think there's no COVID-19 in Ghana, well, I don't have anything to say to you. We're taking a break here now. We're bringing you sports, or business, more business, and then we'll have sports. Do stay tuned in.
Hello there, welcome to Business. I'm Charles Aitip. The Bank of Ghana believes the economy is on a rebound consistent with its recent available data. According to the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, there is evidence of some green shoots in economic activity gleaned from surveys on consumer confidence, which has bounced back to pre-lockdown levels. Of course, at the same time, business confidence has also improved, although the index remains below pre-lockdown levels. He disclosed this at the University of Ghana's alumni lecture.
The data for the first half of 2020 showed that the global economy experienced a sharp contraction due to restrictions imposed to contain the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, survey data into the third quarter of the year points to signs of recovery, driven by the easing of restrictions and the decisive monetary and fiscal policy support. The recovery is expected to be gradual and uneven in view of the cautious behavior of both households and firms. Also, the COVID-19 containment measures vary across countries, and the recoveries will reflect these variations. Despite these early encouraging signs of recovery, the outlook for the global economy remains highly uncertain, with COVID-19 infections continuing to increase as countries ease restrictions, sparking fears of a second and even third wave of infections, requiring reimposition of restrictions and leading to further slowdown in the world economy. The recent resurgence of the pandemic in the United States and parts of Europe lends credence to the uncertain path of the pandemic in the near term. Also, events related to the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic are still evolving, and there is considerable uncertainty about the duration of the spread and how quickly countries will recover. The IMF forecasts that global growth will contract by 4.4% in 2020. If this materializes, the COVID-19 pandemic may possibly become one of the most economically costly pandemics in recent history. This notwithstanding, the recent announcement of coronavirus vaccines with more than 90% efficacy and the subsequent approval to administer these vaccines in the United Kingdom and other advanced economies has fueled optimism and restored some hope about a return to normalcy in the near term.
Well, meanwhile, the governor, Dr. Ernest Addison, is calling for tough measures to be taken to reorganize public finances and expenditure priorities while exploring more avenues to raise revenue for the country.
As you know, public debt levels have risen following the necessary fiscal expansion in the short term to contain the impact of the pandemic. Hence, there is a need to design a plan to bring down the debt to sustainable levels, to contain risks posed to future financing of the budget, exchange rate stability, and financial stability. This framework should include a clear priority towards expenditure rationalization and efficiency, as well as improving revenue collection capacity. Ghana's public debt has reached 71% of estimated GDP at the end of September 2020, fairly above the maximum early warning sustainability threshold of 70% for market access countries. The country's debt service indicators and gross financing needs have also breached sustainability thresholds. The non-resident holdings of public debt, although declined, is still high at 59.9% of GDP, above the threshold of 45% for market access countries. Public gross financing needs are also above the 10% market access country threshold on the back of increased fiscal obligations, suggesting constrained fiscal space for growth spending. Although the external financing requirement as a share of GDP has declined and within acceptable thresholds, efforts would need to be put into place to increase buffer levels to help meet future external obligations. In ensuring financial stability, the financial sector will require constant regulatory and policy attention to identify and mitigate emerging risks. By and large, the economic impact of the pandemic may result in a higher non-performing loans and some capital erosion of banks.
Let's say a little longer on this because the Vice Chancellor of the University of Ghana, Professor Ebenezer Ojobusu, has commended the government for effectively managing the economy. According to him, the prudent management of the economy, despite the ravaging effect of COVID-19, is highly commendable.
Government's prudent management of the pandemic and its effect on the citizenry is highly commendable. This is evident in the low infection and death rates and high recovery rates. The Director of Noguchi is here. If I give him a chance, I think he can lecture us the whole day on this. The potential risk going forward is fiscal challenges, that is deficit, as a result of a slowdown of domestic revenue and high expenditure from the management of the pandemic. And undoubtedly, this is likely to translate into rising debt stock. And this is what the governor is trying to battle with. Prudent fiscal management on the part of government here is extremely crucial, particularly in the year 2021, to forestall any dangerous economic slippages that could erode all the economic gains made so far as a nation. And I think he made it clear that all the economic gains for the past 3 years have been eroded. So now we have to set ourselves on the road to recovery. So in all, individuals, households, and businesses must learn from the pandemic and know that withholding unproductive consumption expenditure in favor of the future in the form of savings is the best insurance against such unforeseen circumstances.
Well, let's stay a little longer on the macroeconomy because the government statistician is pushing for some targeted policies by government to fast-track the much talked about economic recovery. The Finance Minister, Kanu Fureta, has projected a marginal positive growth by the end of the year, despite the contraction of the economy in the third quarter of this year. By speaking on PM Express on Joynews, Professor Aining said a targeted policy could even result in an appreciable growth for the economy by the end of this year.
As a statistician, we are circumspect in predicting based on these things. And I like the way my two colleagues have articulated their point. Essentially, it depends on the interventions that have been put in place and the sectors that are receiving those interventions. And one is not too sure how people are going to react to the elections that we've just gone through and the festive period that is ahead of us. January, it's always, December is always a tricky month because it's a festive period and one expect spending to go up. But given the elections, one would have to be careful in saying that it will follow the trends during a non-election year. So again, I wouldn't put my head out and say that we're going to get out of the contraction in the last quarter of 2020, but all depends on the interventions that will be instituted.
If again, I ask myself, is it about the weighting? Because agri sector did quite well, but it looks like it was not strong enough to offset, to still push the economy up.
Yes, it's essentially about the weighting. And again, if you look at it just from the numbers point of view, we saw 16 subsectors that expanded in the period Q3 2020. And only 4 subsectors contracted, and these were one would call the movers of our GDP. The subsectors that contracted were hotels and restaurants. That is not really a heavyweight, but the 2 subsectors that I'll tag as heavyweights are mining and quarrying, which contracted by 16.9%, but the share of GDP is 13.9%. So mining and quarrying alone is taking close to 14% of our total GDP. And the other sector that we call a mover of the GDP is the trade, repair of vehicles and household goods. That also contracted by 7.7%, and its share of GDP is 11.4%. So taking just these 2 sectors, we are talking about a fifth in terms of share of GDP, of our total GDP. So irrespective of what happens in the other 18 subsectors, these 2 sectors would continue to determine what happens to our GDP growth rate.
And do you think that we should look at a policy, well-targeted policy? Because some have complained about jobless growth. We are growing all right. What policy direction and what sectors should be targeted in our quest to fast-track the recovery? Because some are saying that, I mean, even with a little intervention of government, we've seen the contraction slow a little bit. If we could have done more, maybe we could have been getting out of this even in Q3.
George, you are absolutely right. What we need to do as a country is to do targeting intervention. As my colleague spoke, Dr. Ankra articulated the various interventions. What I did ask myself is, even within the ICT sector, what are you going to concentrate on? It's about time we begin to look at very detailed level interventions rather than broad interventions.
Well, that'll be it for Business. Sports is up next.
Thanks for staying with us here on Joynews Prime Time to bring you the second installment of sports. My name is Hans Mensando. Now, Black Starlight head coach Karim Zito is optimistic his team can win the Wafu Cup of Nations tomorrow. He was speaking to Tofik Abdul Kadri Sieno, who is with the team in Benin.
We know Burkina Faso, they play like the way Ghana plays. And then when it comes to development, I think they are one of the best in the region, like Cote d'Ivoire. They are very good. They are a very good side that we should not joke, especially the back line, 4 line should be very vigilant and then precise with whatever they want to do on the field. But we've also planned against their weaker side. We've seen the way they played, so we plan together with my technical team to the way we are going to face them. We are a threat to them, they are a threat to us. I can't say this much will be easy, but the most important thing, as I kept on telling you, is qualifying. Now what we are going in for is a bonus that will carry us, will encourage us, and then we'll push the FA forward, and then we'll push the satellite forward.
Well, let's do some Ghana Premier League news. And Kerala United suffered their first defeat to Pechim United earlier today in the Ghana Premier League. Assistant coach Stephen Abugri believes the outcome of the game is a reality check for the club. And that's it for sports. There is more at myjoyonline.com/sports. You can also follow us on all the social media platforms. Joy Sports GH on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Facebook at Joy Sports.
So before we wrap up the bulletin, we're going to our Facebook page and to the question we put up earlier, will you be willing to take a COVID-19 vaccine when it becomes available in Africa or in Ghana? And so here, we have Bawa Musa saying yes, but under duress, that is if it's the only option available. Evans says the whites should be vaccinated. They brought it here, and moreover, it doesn't thrive in Ghana. If they're vaccinated, we will be fine. And Akwesi says yes, and this is not a matter of will or will not, and only if Ghana as a nation can afford it. And Malawi says, why not? I'm ready for the vaccine, if only it's accessible to the ordinary Ghanaian. Mohammed says there is no COVID-19 but poverty in Ghana. Larry Jacob says there's no COVID-19 in Ghana. It was a scam, so I will say a big no for the vaccine. Even the whites themselves know there's no COVID in Ghana. Dominic says, I'll take it first. Vaccination is the way to go. Ask yourself when was the last time you heard of poliomyelitis, yellow fever, disease, measles, etc. It has reduced drastically as a result of vaccination during our childhood days. And Richard says the politicians should take it. They are the first-class citizen. The third class will take it later. And finally, Ronald says the UN correspondent said they expect 80% readiness before they can administer the drug. But Africa is about 36% ready. For me, I'm not sure for now. Also, as 4 people at home, only one person said, why not? No, one said, well, that's about it. I mean, thanks for sharing your views with us here on Joynews. That's it for the bulletin. I'm Israel Liam. You have a good night.